Namaste, welcome friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this lesson, you are going to learn about Prakriti and Vikriti. Prakriti refers to our own unique constitution. Not two people are alike. And in this lesson, we will learn in depth how we are different and what does that mean for our health. You're also going to learn about the Vikriti. Vikriti is a temporary condition that can cover our original healthy nature as a state of disease and disorder that can appear like our Prakriti, can appear like our constitution nature, but is different. So we learn how to recognize imbalances in our body. We're also going to explore the three doshas, Vata, Pitta and Kapha in more depth. We're going to explore all the qualities of Vata dosha and what does that mean for the diet and lifestyle. We're going to explore all the qualities of Pitta dosha. What does this mean for their diet and lifestyle? And of course all the qualities of Kapha dosha and what it means for their food and their lifestyle. Let's start. Every person has all the 5 elements within them. In the same way, every person has all the 3 doshas in their body. However, often 1 or 2 doshas will gain predominance in their body. And then we refer to these individuals as a Vata person, a Pitta person, or maybe a Vata Pitta person, etc. Let's have a closer look at this. We have our 3 doshas, Vata, which is made from the space and air element, Pitta, which is the fire and water element, and Kapha, which is earth and water. Now, a person could have one of these 3 dosha as their primary constitution, as their Prakriti. Sometimes you will see that 2 doshas are present of equal strength. So now we have 3 additional combinations to the 3 primary combinations. We have Vata, Pitta. An individual could be Vata and Pitta if their Vata and Pitta qualities are at the same level, but Kapha qualities are less dominant than them. Or a person could be Pitta Kapha if there is an equal amount of Pitta Kapha but less of Vata. Or a person could be Vata and Kapha, which at the beginning for me, Vata Pitta was easy to understand because I'm Vata Pitta in nature, the air and fire element. Also these people, they might be they're very mobile like Vata, they're a little bit thinner like Vata, but then with Pitta, they have a fiery temperament. Pitta and Kapha was also easy to understand because Pitta, we have these fiery people, and then Kapha, they're big and earthy. But Vata and Kapha, they just seem so different. So for me to understand Vata, Kapha, it took me some time. Just think of it in this way. Kapha has these qualities of oiliness, while Vata is dry. So if a person could be Kapha, with Kapha more, they have a bigger build, but they're not oily, they're dry. That would be Kapha Vata individual, for example. Now, counting the 3 natures that have 1 dosha predominant, plus the 3 prakritis that have 2 doshas predominant, gives 6 in total. We learn from the classics that there's also a 7th type of prakriti, which means that all the doshas are equally present. Such a person, we call them 3-doshic. Honestly, I have not seen many people who have a 3-doshic constitution. And one of my teachers even mentioned that it is very unlikely, very rare. She mentioned even after 50 years of practicing Ayurveda, she has never seen a person. But we hear from the classics that it is possible. This would mean that all the doshas exist in equal quality. Why is this important? We want to understand our Prakriti because our Prakriti tells us about the most natural and healthiest state of our body. This state is defined, it is determined by our birth. It is the nature of our mother and father, the nature of our parents, plus the nature of time, the nature of the seasons, plus also a little bit what our soul brought with it from our previous lifetime. All of these factors together, the diet of the mother, the diet of the father, their thoughts 6 months prior to union, their thoughts during the act of union. All of these factors combine, all the food that your mother ate during her pregnancy, all the emotions she had, they combine to form our nature. And this nature does actually not change after birth. Until our death, it does not change. It is always the same. There is this saying that the venom of a cobra does not poison the cobra. In the same way also, we have a certain dominance of qualities in our body. Like if you're a Vata individual, naturally we're a little lighter, naturally we're a bit more drier, naturally we're a bit more mobile. If you're a Kapha individual, we're naturally a bit heavier, we're more grounded, we are bigger. If you're a Pitta individual, naturally we sweat a little bit more. And these are our natural qualities, it is not an imbalance. But if we would try to change that, if we think that every person should be X weight, every person should be a certain weight, or every person should be very muscular, or every person should not sweat a lot. If we think in such a way, then that will create imbalances. For example, in our modern world, we see many people are trying to follow an ideal standard of health that does not consider Prakriti. So in this way, everyone tries, all men, they try to be toned and have muscles and be big. But a Vata person in the healthy state, doesn't have like a huge biceps, right? It doesn't have like, and a Kapha person in a healthy state doesn't have a six-pack because their nature is different. So if we see people who are trying to go against their nature, if we see a Kapha individual who tries a Kapha woman who's trying to have a weight like a Vata woman, that would create disease. Or we see a Vata man who's trying to have muscles like a Pitta and Kapha man, that is also going to create disease. Therefore, we want to understand what is our original nature, what is our Prakriti, what is our constitution that was determined by birth. The easiest way to find out is to just either ask an Ayurvedic practitioner or to take a simple doṣa quiz. There's a doṣa quiz in the description below, in the link in the description below. You can have a look to find out your own Prakriti. But let's try to understand them a bit deeper. And many people, they make this mistake when trying to assess their Prakriti, they confuse it with their Vikriti. Vikriti is that which changes. While our Prakriti remains the same throughout life, Vikriti can fluctuate. So even a Pitta person who is naturally very fiery can catch a cold, which is a Kapha disease. When we have a cold, there's water in our nose, it is all clogged up. That is the Kapha dosha. Even a Vata person, if he or she eats very unhealthy, can gain weight and develop obesity, which is a Kapha disorder. Even a Kapha individual, if not eating proper foods, can have dry hair and dry nails, which is more common for a Vata individual. Depression is a Kapha disorder, there's heaviness, anxiety is a Vata disorder, anger is a Pitta problem. We can all fall prey to these psychological disorders or different physical disorders, and they can temporarily alter our Prakriti. We then call this Vikriti. However, the goal for us is always to come back to our original nature. If Vata dosha is dominant in your Prakriti, then you will manifest these qualities of Vata. Your body will tend to be more dry, cold, light, subtle, mobile, clear and rough. For example, if Vata is your Prakriti, there is a greater tendency towards dry skin, particularly in winter, particularly if you spend too much time in windy environments that aggravate Vata dosha. Also, the nails, they can be a bit more brittle and rough. The hair, it can be drier and rough. Often there's a lot of flakes if Vata is aggravated and out of balance. The wind, it is cooling. Vata dosha has this cool quality. So therefore also people whose nature is Vata predominant will tend to have colder limbs, colder feet, colder hands. If you have a Vata friend and you touch their hand, you can feel it is cold. Vata individuals, you see them, even in summer, they always carry a jumper with them because maybe in the office there's the AC on and then it will be too cold for them and they have to wear the jumper again. Vata individuals naturally have a lighter qualities. They have a light body, they have a lighter weight. They're very mobile because they're light. They just move very quickly. If a Vata person is telling a story, in their conversation, they jump from one point to the next. They start explaining you the doṣas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Then they tell you about their Vata friend. Then they tell you about their child. Then they tell you about the latest movie they watched. And then the whole conversation is gone because they're mobile. Vata individuals, they have a great sense of humor because they're light. We all like to have our Vata friends around because they lighten up the atmosphere. Vata dosha also has the quality of clarity, and therefore Vata individuals naturally they have the power to see. They can see very fast. In the same way like the wind travels very fast, their mind travels at extremely fast speed and they can see in the distance. So they're great visionaries. Vata dosha has beautiful qualities. All these qualities just mentioned, they can add so much to our life, but if they exist in excess, then they can get a little bit challenging. We love our Vata friends because they add so much to a relationship. They bring this lightness, they bring new ideas and flexibility. Forgot to mention Vata also is subtle. So Vata individuals, they have fine feelings. Vata persons are the first people to pick up a new spiritual practice. They're the first persons to have all these ecstatic experiences when they meditate. You will see a lot of people in the yoga studio, they're quite Vata, they're quite thin and light. Vata individuals always do great in yoga, they're great meditators, but they can lose the grounding underneath their feet. Remember our two fundamental principles in Ayurveda, like increases like and opposite balance. So for Vata individuals, heat is very important because Vata individuals, they're cold. So they need to eat hot foods. They need to wear warm clothing. They need to be in warm environments. Vata is dry, so they need more oil in their diet, oily foods. Please, no popcorn, okay? Popcorn is light, it is dry. Vata individuals, they're light and dry already. If they have popcorn, at least they should put some nice oil on it, maybe a little masala as well, to help them digest it and break it down. No cold drinks for Vata individuals, not too many fruits, not too many salads, particularly not outside of summer season. For Vata individuals, it's very important to learn to stay in one place, not to move too quickly. When they do exercise, they can tend to rush through it and sprint through it. But for them, it's very important to ground themselves, to do slow exercise, slow yoga. Vata individuals, they can be great runners, but it is not so good for them as their main exercise. Too much running, it will imbalance Vata because it's too mobile. They're already mobile. They have to learn to sit down. Pranayam's excellent for Vata individuals. And strength training is good for them because they're already lighter. So then putting some more weights on them, bringing in this heavy quality, it is very balancing for them. Vata individuals, they thrive on easy to digest foods, simple foods, well-spiced foods are very important to help them in their digestion. Because sometimes too much air, too much wind, it can turn off the fire. So in the same way also, Vata individuals, sometimes they can have irregular appetites. We're going to explore that in our next lesson. They really thrive on sweet foods, natural sweet foods, no cakes, yeah, grains, rice, wheat, sour foods, because they ignite fire, they ignite appetite, and salty foods. Salt also is very important for Vata because salt, it has this earthy quality. Earth and water, it grounds us. So for Vata individuals, grounding is very important. Every dosha has its seat. Vata dosha has its seat in our lower intestines, in our colon. Therefore, for Vata individuals, working out our thighs and legs, it is very important. If they're out of balance, they can often feel it. Within their thighs, their legs, they can feel this lack of grounding. Because they're subtle, physicality is very important for them. There's this connection in Sankhya philosophy between touch and the air element. Therefore, for Vata, touch is very important. A hug, a massage, massaging ourselves. Abhyanga, which means massaging our body with oils. It is extremely pacifying for Vata individuals. The qualities of Pitta dosha are hot, oily, sharp, liquid, and mobile. Pitta individuals, they tend to run hot. These are the people, even in winter, they're just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Because they have a lot of heat in our body, eating too many heating foods can upset them. Also, any activities that create excessive heat in their body, such as too much exercise during hot weather, too much thinking, too much screens and bright light, which aggravate the eyes, which are also connected to Pitta, too much spicy foods, too much unprocessed anger, too much alcohol, which is acidic, which is also a fiery food, creates a lot of heat in the body. All these things can aggravate Pitta dosha. Fire makes a person sharp. So Pitta individuals, they have very bright minds. Fire, it not only illuminates the world for us, fire not only allows us to see, but even internally it is that fire that allows us to understand our thoughts, that gives us reason and logic. Pitta individuals often have a competitive edge, and we can see our modern society, it favors individuals who are Pitta by nature. We are training people from a young age to be competitive. Even children, from the day they turn 5, from the day they go to primary school, sometimes even earlier, we train them to be competitive, which is a problem. Because we're aggravating their Pitta dosha when they're actually in their Kapha time. We're going to study that later, but all children are in their Kapha time of life. It's important that we can pacify Pitta. If we have a person who is Pitta Prakriti, or Pitta as a secondary nature, they need to utilize their fire in a positive cause. They can participate in sports or gymnastics, but ideally it should not be too competitive, because too much competition will aggravate Pitta unnecessarily. Pitta, because it is fire and water, also has the quality of liquid. Therefore, Pitta individuals, they tend to sweat a little bit more. And that is normal. If we use too much deodorant or too many sprays with a lot of artificials and a lot of chemicals because we're trying to be like somebody else, that can create a problem. Sweating is a natural thing. However, if there's any unhealthy smell connected to sweat or any discoloration, that's a sign of a bigger problem in our body. Pitta dosha also has the oily quality. Therefore, the skin naturally is a little bit more on the oily side. Not as much as Kapha, but also not as dry as Vata. If you have Pitta friends, we can hold the hand. Often you'll notice the hands and the body temperature in general is very warm. Because of their oily quality, too many deep fried foods, too many oily foods will upset their dosha. Too many heavily processed food will upset their natural constitution and create imbalances. Tastes that pacify Pitta is the bitter taste, means all your cooling greens. It is the sweet taste, all your grains and wheat. And it is the astringent taste. Astringent means like pomegranate, cranberries. Most legumes are slightly astringent. Quinoa. All these foods, they pacify Pitta. For Pitta individuals, it's very important to stay cool, to utilize their energy in a positive way, to learn forgiveness and to give up anger, to practice compassion for others. We love our Pitta friends because they help us to achieve things. It is our Vata friends which have the best ideas, while it is the Pitta friends who are able to execute them. Kapha dosha has the qualities of heaviness, oldness, soft, oily, they're stable, and also we have this sticky quality. Kapha individuals, they have heavier bodies, heavier bones. If you want to know your constitution, an easy check, have a look at your wrist. Vata individuals will have the thinnest wrist in comparison to their arm and the hands. Pitta individuals slightly bigger and Kapha the biggest. We can also look at the shoulders. Vata individuals have a quite elongated body, which means their shoulders are quite thin. Pitta individuals, it's a bit more, but Kapha individuals have a very wide trunk, very wide body. So we have this heavy quality. They're naturally very grounded, they're stable. Remember our example of our friends and how to execute a project? Vata people have the idea, Pitta people, they get it done, but Kapha individuals, they ensure that there's stability and continuity in the project. They ensure that nobody gets burned out. Their quality is cold. They're not as cold as Vata individuals, but they're slightly on the colder side. Their skin is very soft, often have round cheeks and soft cheeks that are fun to pull. Like all babies, I mentioned earlier, the first 16 years of our life, that the Kapha times, the babies, they're full on Kapha, they have soft bodies, very nice to look at. They have the stable quality, which means they're difficult to move because they're heavy, right? And sticky. What does it mean, sticky? Kapha is like love, right? They have a lot of love and compassion in their heart. And love, it sticks. So also Kapha people, they can help us to stick together. But if a Kapha person eats food, we just have the same qualities like them. Like the sweet taste, like heavy foods, cold foods, oily foods, sticky foods. It's going to clog up all the arteries and I might get a heart attack. So Kapha individuals, they can have lighter foods. For them also, hot foods is very important. But the most important for them, even more than just what they eat, is what do they do. Their movement and sport is very important. Pitta individuals, for them, flexibility is nice. Particularly twisting our stomach. Because Pitta has a seat in our lower intestines. So twisting our stomach, doing all these forward twists, backward bends, side twists, very beneficial for them. For Kapha individuals, because they're heavy and they're stable, etc., movement is key. Running a marathon, going jogging, doing yoga, doing weights, all of that is great for Kapha individuals because they have the energy, they have the capacity to actually do it. Because they're so soft and because they're very cozy and comfortable, sometimes they can avoid challenges, a little bit of hardness, a little bit of roughness. It actually balances them, actually benefits them. So we can see that the three doshas, they're quite distinct in their qualities. Maybe you have one of them dominant, maybe two, maybe all three. It's fairly rare, but maybe you're the one. Comment if you think you're three doshic. Let's find out. But we can see they all have different qualities, and it's not that one is better than the other. We read some of the ancient classics, and they often say that Kapha is the best. They have beautiful curly hair and effulgent skin and lumptious body, etc., and curves, and they're happy and they have love in their heart. Well, then sometimes the classics say Vata individuals have dry and brittle nails, and their hair, it splits, and their cheekbones are coming out, and they're looking emaciated like a ghost. But it's not true. Every dosha has good and bad qualities. Every dosha can be either in balance or out of balance. Either too much or too little. And we need all three doshas to get a project done. We need all three doshas in our friends group. We need all three doshas in a company. They all bring their unique gifts and they balance each other. We could look at the relationship between the three doshas and which partner we can choose. For example, Vata individuals, they do really well with Kapha partners because Vata people are like, hi, I'm there, I'm flying, I'm alive. But Kapha people are like, I'm here. Life is good. So they balance each other, right? Kapha individuals, they ground the Vata person, while the Vata person will get the Kapha person moving. It's a beautiful team together. If you put two Vata individuals together, woo, it's tricky. They might understand each other well, but one wind can just sweep them off the ground. You put Vata and Pitta together, it's like a forest fire. Even for those of you who have Vata Pitta constitution, my teacher said it's a forest fire. Everything is peaceful, and in one moment, everything's on fire. And then the next moment, everything is gone. It's like you're fueling the air, just fueling the fire. We'll have some different lessons on how to choose your partner according to your Prakriti. But we want to appreciate this beautiful creation that we live in and these differences. Let's explore how to spot imbalances in our body, and let's explore how the three doshas influence our digestion. Because in Ayurveda, our stomach, our digestion is the root for all disease, and it's also the root for our health. By the way, Kapha dosha has its seat in the stomach, and the stomach, it goes up all the way to our mouth. So in our mouth, we also have Kapha, and therefore our mouth, it has all these qualities of Kapha. It is sticky and slimy, etc. So therefore, Kapha individuals, for them, exercise with the upper part of the body are also very important. And for them, the first disease are often in the lungs, in the stomach. Maybe they're more prone to asthma, to congestion, etc. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I see you in our next lesson.